Welcome back to another episode of the MacRumors Show. This is my smooth... Why did I say it like that? Like I'm a deep radio voice. Welcome back to After Hours with Dan and Hartley. Today we're going to talk about the Invites app. So hit us up on the hotline. Okay, let's just start a new one.
I like that intro.
Did you? You want to just keep it? All right. Well, hey, this is the MacRumors Show, and we're back. Hartley, how's life? Are you excited about the Invites app?
Excited isn't the word I would use, but it's a good app. I'm glad it exists. It's always nice to see Apple debuting new software. I have a couple concerns about it, but we'll get to those.
I mean, let's just go right into it.
Okay.
We don't need to wait. What are your concerns? Tell me.
Well, my first concern is there's no iPad app. This is iPhone only. There's obviously no Mac version. And I think this is a little bit of a worrying trend for Apple's first-party apps, because if we think back to some of their biggest new apps that they've released over the past 18 months, we had the Journal app, which is iPhone only. We have the Sports app, which is iPhone only. And now we have the Invites app, which is iPhone only. And there is no sign of those apps coming to iPad. Apple had the opportunity last year to bring the Journal app to the iPad and the Mac, where it would actually make more sense because, of course, if you want to write an extended journal entry, do you really want to do that on your iPhone keyboard? If you want to read back your different journal entries, do you really want to do that on your iPhone? You don't want to do that on your iPad?
Right.
But Apple neglected to do that, and maybe they will. Maybe this is going to be the year when I will be pleasantly surprised, and at WWDC they will bring all of these apps over to the Mac. But they just haven't. So I hope that the Invites app does come to the iPad and also to the Mac. I mean, there's not really any reason when the Mac can run iPhone apps now anyway, although I suppose it's slightly different on the Mac because in theory now you could run it over iPhone mirroring. I think that's maybe the iPad is slightly more the outlier. What do you think?
Okay, so a couple of things. While you were saying that, and somebody told me that while you speak, they think sometimes I don't listen. And I try to explain, I'm absolutely listening, but I'm also multitasking. Like, we have notes in front of us. We are looking up things to make sure that, sometimes we're factually correct. And so while you were saying that, of course, I'm always listening to you, Hartley. But I was also looking at, because I wanted to make sure, I never tried this because, the app only came out a couple of days ago. You can actually access it on your Mac via iCloud. So you go to the website, and I know you're going to say that's not the same, but it's not the same. You are absolutely correct. But you can create an event. I was worried that it was more of like you just can only see your events and like accept events and stuff like that. But you can actually create an event. So like what? How often do you need the app on your Mac? Like for the once or so times a couple
I don't know,
months?
Though. I personally actively choose to use my Mac to do more productive tasks.
Sure.
So if I'm, say, managing my calendar, I want to look ahead to the next week, make some adjustments, edit the details of a lot of events, I will not do that on my iPad or on my iPhone. I will purposefully go and open my Mac and do it there. Because the precision and the speed is so much better. Likewise, say using the Notes app. If you want to just work on one note, maybe that's okay on your iPad. But if I want to be moving between lots of notes, opening up different windows, I need to use my Mac. Well, I'm likely to be in the same mode. If I've got a big event planned, I'm probably not going to just want to create that on the fly on my iPhone. My brain is going to go to, I need to sit down at my desk and do this. And maybe that's just me, but it's odd for an app that is effectively a productivity utility. It's an extension of time blocking and calendar and these sorts of concepts. I know it integrates with lots of apps, but that's a sort of category it's in that it isn't available on either of Apple's other platforms. And obviously it is stranger with the iPad. That's the thing is, the Mac, you can get away with it by saying, well, you can use mirroring, you can use iCloud. I know you could use iCloud on the iPad, but my point is that it's more of a straightforward explanation with the Mac because Mac OS is a completely different platform, but iPad OS is basically iOS. So it's strange that across these different apps, Apple has chosen to keep them iPhone only.
I I agree. Like I'm all for, especially with the Mac. Like I do not like using web apps. Anytime there's an actual app available for, whatever it is that we're using. Like I know people who do Slack or email on just like a Chrome browser, and that's not for me. I would rather have an actual app for that. But I understand it a little bit more just being able to go to iCloud and use it on the Mac. But for the iPad, I agree. It should just run an app and 100% see that as being strange. But my guess is I wonder if that's just going to be like a slower rollout type deal and it'll eventually.
I don't know.
And hopefully it doesn't get the journal treatment.
It's not a given now because of the Journal
Yeah.
app. I was pretty convinced that the Journal app surely would come to Apple's main mobile device with a keyboard
Yeah.
when it's
Can
so
I-
dependent on written text.
Can I just add real quick? When was the last time you've logged into iCloud on the Mac?
It must have been a while.
Do it right now, real quick. Just for those. And honestly, this is a good exercise for anyone who's listening and you're not driving and you are near a computer. Go log into iCloud on your Mac. It is beautiful.
It is. I'm in now already. It looks very good.
When did this happen? I like these widgets for like mail and photos and notes. I didn't even know you could do like this is the stuff that they should be putting on your iPad and your Mac. Like these are really nice looking widgets, and I like the way they're laid out and everything.
If I was a Windows user, if I had to use Windows for work or something, I would love this.
I know, right? Because you can access everything that you really need. Honestly, I mean, if like messages were on here, that would be pretty cool too. And then you'd kind of have everything that you need on your Mac desktop. I mean, it's not a full blown app, but like so. Then click on the invites. What do you think of this? Like this little custom, like the way it looks. So you got your home. I mean, it's still pretty nicely designed.
It's perfectly functional.
Yeah. And you
I
can
don't
create.
know. I'm glad that it's here, and I appreciate the way that Apple has iterated on iCloud.com. I think
Yeah.
that there are some more things that could be done because also, of course, there is a web-based version of Apple Music, isn't there?
Yeah, it looks like it. I've never actually tried it, but I'm going to click on it right now because no, it just for me it just opened up the app, but I've never tried this.
Maybe
I'm
I'm
not
imagining
a user.
it. Oh no, there is a web player.
I just clicked on it on an event, so I'm wondering if
Yeah, so there is a web version, except I think it doesn't allow you to access your library. It just allows you to access like radio and stuff. Well, then maybe I'm wrong. I'm investigating here. I'm learning
this
things.
is. And also, by the way, just for those who are still wondering about iCloud, like you can customize this. It's pretty fancy looking. Why hasn't Apple or maybe I've just totally missed it because it's not something super important, but I feel like they should be advertising this a little bit more for people who don't always have access to their stuff but need the ability to like you said on a Windows computer to be able to access this.
You can access your full Apple Music library as well, which is really
Where?
good. That's not through
What's-
iCloud. That's through music.apple.com.
Yeah, see, I've never done that. I don't have a reason to, but
Which is
Yeah,
also
you-
pretty good. I mean,
you're
I've
right.
had no reason to, but I can imagine that years ago when I had to use Windows machines when I was at university and things like that, this would have been incredible.
Well, especially if you work for like a corporation where you can't download apps, you can't get the music app on your Windows. There's a music app, right? There was an iTunes app, so I'm guessing this is something that I should.
I don't know.
but
I feel like we don't have all the answers to this stuff.
we
Dan.
don't have the answers because we're not Windows people. So you got to forgive us in this instance because I can't tell you the last time I've used a Windows machine, and that is not something that people should expect of us. So I'm gonna use that as my excuse. But like I feel like there's a music app, right? There was an iTunes app. I know that for sure. So either way, this is a great way for people in corporations who can't download apps. You can go to music.apple.com and still get your library, be able to listen to music while you do some work. And
You
if
even
you
get
want
a little notes app in here, you get access to all your notes. You get
Dude,
access to your
telling
calendar, contacts.
this is cool. I don't know why I really like it. Like I kind of want my Mac to look like this. Like if I just logged into the Mac and this was your desktop and you had it laid out like this, I hope people are like intrigued to go check it out because, or maybe if I'm feeling extra generous with this edit, I'll add in a little picture of what it looks like so that you guys don't have to go and do it.
If
But
you're feeling generous.
if I'm feeling generous, sometimes it takes me. I got a lot of other stuff that I got to do. I don't think people understand. But yeah, so I think it looks really nice. And I'm going to carry that sentiment over to the Invites app because I do think it's a really, really nicely designed app.
I agree. I think
Like-
it looks. It reminds me of the sports app in that it's got this sort of. It feels like a next generation design.
Right.
Other Apple apps don't really look like
No.
this.
Why do they not? Why are we not getting all the apps like this?
I'd like to think that this is a sneak preview of the long-term design direction that Apple is going to go in with all of this translucency. It just looks really good. It looks familiar, but it does seem to be an evolution of Apple's current design language. It doesn't just look like, I don't know, the Messages app or something.
I saw a tweet online that said, "Did Apple just leak iOS 19?" Because if you look at the on the App Store, the images that they use to like give you a preview of what it would look like before you download the app, some things are just weirdly placed and like doesn't look right. And I'm pretty sure those are just the Figma boards that people use to create like the mock-ups, and they just went with it and didn't put in because like some things are wrong or just in a weird spot. And I don't think that means that this is iOS 19. I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah. I mean, here, this will be a good look at how nice that looks. You can see our little retreat we got coming up. I'm not going to show you where, but you know, like I like the way this looks. I think this is what a lot of these apps need to start taking. And like journal apps, that was technically. It's not as good, but like the sports app you said looks really, really good. Very much Vision OS, a little bit of like some influence there. I like the inclusion of Image Playground. You know, start adding that into more apps if you want us to use it. It did a really bad job in my video when I said like make a birthday party for me, and you know, in the image, the text said my birthday or like happy birthday, and that was the prompt. So like I know that AI has a hard time generating text, but you would think it'd be able to take happy birthday. I literally spelled it out for them, and like it should know and be smart enough to be like, oh, that's a common thing that a banner might say happy birthday, and it just had nonsense written on it. It wasn't great, but otherwise, I mean, I don't know, you can set up, you can add it to calendar, which I think is weird. Now maybe you can tell me if I'm wrong. Don't you think it should automatically add this to your calendar after you create an event and like accept that you're going? Or do you not want that?
I don't know. I don't mind that you have to manually do it because maybe you're the sort of person that wants to put your own information in there, or you want to word things differently. I noticed that it inputs it literally as the title of that. And what if the event has multiple parts? Or
can you not edit? Can you not edit it, or does it?
I don't know. I imagine you probably can. I don't really have a good excuse for this. Probably should add it. Is the simple answer?
Here, I'm going to add it, and I'm going to see if I can change it. But so yeah, I know you're like a big calendar person, and you really stay up to date on what your calendar looks like. So I was curious if maybe you're like, no, I'd rather have it separated. So if I go into Retreat and I click on it. It looks like I can edit it, but I don't know if it's going to edit it for everybody else. It doesn't look like it because you can change the calendar and where you add it and stuff. So, yeah, okay. So you can mess around with it. So I feel like it should automatically make it, you know, added to your calendar, or at least like change that into settings somewhere. Like choose to automatically add the events that you accept, not ones that you would get invited to, but if you accept that you're going. What else is cool about? Oh, you can add. So that's another good thing, is that once you create an event, it automatically gives you 2 spots down at the bottom. And now this isn't going to be necessary for every event, but for some, you can have the ability to one tap create a shared library with everybody that's going for photos. So that's really, really cool. Hey, you took a photo at my birthday. Like, it'd be great if you can add it to this, shared folder that's already made for you, and so that everyone can access it. I think that's really fun. It's a really good idea. And then the other thing is an Apple Music playlist. That, I don't know that we need that all the time, but
I like that it's there. I think it shows that the strength of the ecosystem advantage that you get.
A little salty that I can't change that to Spotify, but
I would like to see more integrations. I think it would be good if you could allow it to change that service, or even allow both at the same time, because not everyone is going to have one service or the other. I would like to see more integrations with other Apple services. What if I want to attach a PDF or something?
Reminders. Like, it would be cool if you needed to like create a shopping list or something for this event. Like, I could see it being good for, you know, family vacations or something, or like, I don't know. I guess that's not really the whole point of that. It's for, you know, things that but like we're planning a vacation with you know, different groups of people that don't live with us all the time. So it would be nice to like have everything attached in one spot, and then they can just go to it and see, all right, here's what we're doing, here's the itinerary, here's like what reminders of what you might need. I don't know. There's so much you can do with it. But again, it is just a event invite app, so let's not get too carried away.
That kind of brings me to my other concern, and it's not a criticism because it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But it kind of relates to my first point, which is I really hope Apple doesn't just abandon this app. Apple has a tendency to introduce apps. There's a lot of fanfare, and then they're just left to coast by in the background, and then they become incredibly outdated. So, for example, do you remember Clips?
Like the one, like the Clips app, or what was the other thing that like you could scan
App
the
Clips. Yeah, app clips are okay. App Clips are okay because I put that down.
I've never seen that anywhere.
I think I've seen it once or twice. I think I've used it in the real world once.
At the Apple Store. That's the only place that I've ever seen it.
But that I don't mind because that's down to adoption by third-party companies. With the Clips app, that was a video editing app for editing short-form video.
Yeah.
Which is pretty topical, actually, at the moment, considering that Meta have just said that they're going to come out with their version to a rival CapCut.
Yeah.
And Clips should really be there, but Apple has basically not updated Clips since it debuted. So why did it even bother to make it in the first place? Who is out there using it? I would be surprised if almost anyone is using that app.
That would have been a good app now. I think they were too early with it. Right? Because like short form video obviously still existed. It was, you know, just starting to become the height of like, but it's not what it is now. When did that app come out? Like 5 or 6 years ago, at least?
Yes, but I don't think it's just that app. I think that Apple has a tendency with.
Have they really never updated that app since it came out?
Well, I think it's issued updates, but it hasn't iterated on it. It hasn't added new features. It hasn't moved with the times, and it's just a bit of a strange outlier now.
I don't even have it on my phone anymore, dude. I got rid of that.
And there are plenty of other times. I mean, I think the biggest example of it, to be honest, that's kind of staring us in the face is Siri. And I know that Apple is now going to be revamping Siri with iOS 18.4. But the fact remains that Siri's been pretty neglected for years. There was an enormous amount of fanfare when it debuted on the iPhone 4S. And yes, over the years, they introduced better voice so that it sounds more human and natural, those sorts of things. But it's never really got more useful. It just has a tendency to put this stuff out there and think, okay, job done, in a way that third-party app developers don't. So is it Partiful is the main rival to effectively this Invites app? It's the kind of main competitor that exists.
I honestly thought Facebook like events would have been the main competitor in my opinion, because that's how everyone that I know, when we get invited to things, it's still via Facebook. No one's ever sent like a third-party app invite to anything, or like what's the eBright, right? Isn't that the other one?
I don't know.
I could be wrong. I don't know. Right? eBright, yeah.
Whatever
Eventbrite.
It may be, is that if these rivals iterate and provide a better experience than Apple, which is entirely possible if Apple falls asleep at the wheel here with this app, then what's the point of all of this? I think that it's all well and good introducing something. It's another matter being committed to it in years to come. And that means giving it an iPad app, giving it a Mac app, adding more integrations, making it integrate more seamlessly with the calendar app as well. Maybe let me create an invite from the calendar app. Whatever it may be, just not deciding that this app is done. I don't think that attitude should really be taken with any app. I think every single app needs some attention from time to time.
How do you feel about Partiful? Now that we've looked it up, how do you feel about Partiful? I don't know whatever. How do you feel about that app calling out Apple? Because they definitely did. They said that they essentially copied him.
It's really they call this Sherlocking, don't they? Where Apple effectively goes directly after a third party by building its own version. But I would argue that it doesn't really matter because there is always a space for third party solutions. My favorite example of this will come as no surprise to you, which is Cultured Code's Things 3. That is
Shocked.
That is effectively an alternative to reminders, but it has functionality that is simply not available in reminders, and is imagined in a completely different way. So many people will be happy using reminders. I am happy using Things 3. There is enough space for both. Sometimes I still use reminders for various things. I think the same goes for many other different pieces of software. Some people use multiple email apps. Some people just want the built-in solution. I think there's no harm in it. I think competition is always a good thing.
Okay. I feel like this is going to happen once an episode where I just disappear for a little bit, so everybody bear with me. But I heard everything you said. I was not listening to you. I could still hear everything.
You were just
I'm
that captivated. You just froze.
Yeah. It's good to know that my face, my big dumb frozen face, doesn't actually stay up there during these issues with Riverside. It just like makes me disappear, which is great. So it just focuses on you. So I hope the rest of your room is clean because we're going to see everything.
Yeah, I hope so. I only tidy up what's directly in the frame.
Hey, what is that on the top? What is that above your head? Top left. I guess you're right. Red.
That's a fez.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought it might have been something else.
Everyone should have a fez. You telling me you don't have a fez, Dan?
No.
Oh,
Are you going to get me one? Bring me one. Ooh. Don't forget to bring me, what is the thing that a crumpet. Don't forget to bring me some crumpets.
I can't bring you crumpets, Dan.
Why? Because they'll spoil by the time I see you?
Yes.
That's lame.
You must have crumpets.
We have English muffins. We've been through this.
Yes, but they're not crumpets.
But when I looked it up, it said that was what it was.
Well, you looked it up wrong. You
Okay.
asked Americans.
I just asked Google, but yeah. Anyways, I'm not shocked to see that you want more competition. I also agree with that, but I was mostly saying that you brought up Things 3. I feel like we have to have an episode counter and how much Things 3. We should be sponsored by
a good app.
It is,
It's
yeah,
such a good app.
Just real quick, the Partiful thing, they basically took a screenshot of Apple's developer rules, the section about no copycats, saying like that you shouldn't, be original, don't copy other apps, and basically saying that Apple should not copy their app because they did. It looks like we got an invite app war going on, so that's cool.
It's not a carbon copy though.
I have not used it, but I'm looking at the screenshot. It's not a carbon copy visually, but it's not that far off, and I'm sure it does all of the same stuff. Obviously, what else could you do? You can't really fully iterate.
Some different features. There have to be.
I don't want to speak to it. I've never used it, but I mean,
No, neither have I. I would be very surprised if Partiful had, I don't know, the Apple Music integration and had no other features that if they have the exact same feature set, I just can't imagine that would be the case.
maybe I'll try it after this. But I want to real quick point out there's a couple of comments that says so one of the things about invites real quick is that it does require an iCloud Plus subscription. How do you feel about that?
It's a bit strange because if you want users to adopt this, and if people are so in the habit of using Facebook or just a calendar event, or even if they just create like a WhatsApp group or anything,
Yeah.
it seems odd that you want to paywall this feature. It's not compelling enough to paywall. If anything, this should be something you want to make free and encourage as many people as possible to use it. It's even the sort of thing I would argue you want to create an Android app for, to just gently push people in this direction and get them enmeshed in the ecosystem. I don't really understand why it's hiding behind that subscription.
So it's not entirely leaving people out. I'm just looking at some of my comments that people are getting upset about, and like one of them is, Apple walled garden, leaving out friends and family with Android phones. It's not. You are still invited, and you can absolutely, look at it and still accept and get all the details. You just can't create your own event. unless you go to iCloud Plus, or if you have an iCloud Plus subscription and then go to iCloud.com in a browser, I'm guessing that would work. I have not tried that, but I'm assuming if you can access it somehow, you could do it there. But yeah, I mean, I agree. There should be an Android app at some point, and there should. I don't know if they need to make a Windows app since it can work on the desktop browser. But I don't know if they're serious about cornering this market.
But that's why I don't know if they are serious. And
so then why make this app?
well, why make the journal app?
I don't know.
If
they're not going to be serious about it.
But we don't know. I don't want to judge them for this yet, but I just have concerns that history is going to repeat itself here. And sometimes Apple has really good software and has the opportunity to take over a market, but it just doesn't. And I think a really good example of this actually is during COVID. Why did Apple not debut a version of FaceTime for Android, for Windows? And I know you can access a call with a link, but that isn't actually good enough or accessible enough. And so the big names in video calling have pretty much just been Skype, and then it moved from Skype to Zoom. But FaceTime has never been in the discussion. People associate FaceTime with iPhone users, and they associate it with iPhones and mobile devices. People don't associate it with work. Who is using FaceTime calls for work? And that seems like such a big missed opportunity. There is no reason, if you're going to provide the ability to access that call over a link anyway, and you want to get people enmeshed in the ecosystem, you're offering things like an Apple Music app, you're offering things like an Apple TV app for consumption. Well, this is not that far away from that. It's still social, it's still for entertainment. And sometimes Apple's very comfortable to just not take over a market, just do its own thing. So ultimately, this is a really tiny app. It's not super feature rich. It's very comparable to something like the Sports app. But I just want to see where this goes, because even the Sports app, they haven't done a huge amount with it.
Well, just for reference, the Clips app came out 7 years ago, and since then there has been less than 25 updates.
But I'd like to know what features they've actually brought
7 years.
To it. I
I'm not going to
think of any.
I mean, it's brought new selfie scenes 6 years ago. Choose from 19 animated emoji stickers. That was 5 years ago. You can record clips as your favorite emoji. That was the same year. Clips on iPad was just introduced 4 years ago. Use clips on iPad with a mouse, trackpad, or Bluetooth keyboard. So it wasn't just introduced, but I guess that support was just introduced. You can record and create videos in ranges of sizes, so not just 9:16, but you can do horizontal. There was AR stuff added 3 years ago. 2 years ago, it added Apple ID stuff. Honestly, not a lot in the last 2 years.
And when you consider how much the market for short form video has developed, that's just strange.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's they should have a CapCut or turn iMovie into. I mean, there's iMovie. We forget about that. That you could do that, but it's not just for specifically like.
But they bothered to make the Clips app. They bothered to put this out there and say what it was for.
I don't know what Clips is for anymore, honestly. Speaking of the Sports app came out 11 months ago, and that has a decent amount of updates. 1, 2, 3. There was probably 20. So,
but it needs to keep going. That there's a lot more that could be done with the Sports app. There's a lot of sports it doesn't yet support, namely
16. Yeah, I mean,
if you're into American football, then it's pretty good. But I mean, there's so many sports it doesn't support.
Well, it's not no. So American football, you're wrong there, because it's now there, but technically when it launched, it did not have football on there.
Oh,
but
it was
it's
I'm
football.
Confused.
Football. It was basketball that it came out because it came out during the season. They added football when football got because it was off season. So I get it. You don't need to look at that, but there's so much more they can do with this app. Why am I not seeing all of the news and stuff here? This would be great.
We need news integration. It also needs Apple Music integration, because if music is played at the start of a game, at the end of a game, that should be there.
Like what
Apple
songs
TV,
we're playing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
Like
absolutely should have these features.
I should be able to tap on it and it should take me right to, okay, so you can see coverage here, but like I can't tap on any of these. I want it says the apps that it's available in. Why can't I open those apps up? I guess it doesn't even take me to the Apple TV app. You know? Unless
Yeah.
it's maybe when the game is going on. We don't have a game right now. But like I love this app for the live activities because that's where I see all my like when the Cavs are playing, which is the season right now for basketball. I keep track of the game, and then if I want to see more stats, I just tap on the live activity. It takes me into that, and there's plenty of stats and stuff, but there's so much more they could do. Highlights would be great, like if you're not able to watch the game, but like maybe a cool catch happened in a football game, or a really good touchdown or something cool, like that. Yeah, this is where but like the app design is amazing. It's just like the invites, like it's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best app designs for years.
Yeah. Well, that's the invites app. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to Apple invites?
Not specifically, although I will say it has made me reflect about how I really want a little bit more work to be done on the calendar app going into iOS 19.
Yeah. I mean, this could have been an extension of the calendar app, just to be honest with you.
It absolutely could have been, but I understand why they want to make it its own thing and make it more accessible and get people to imagine it as its own experience. But I think the calendar app needs some work. It's a little bit buggy. I don't know if that's your experience, but it seems to struggle with handling a lot of events.
Like in what way?
Like if I search,
Okay.
it can't seem to handle searching through many hundreds of different events.
Okay.
And it seems like there are some features that should be there. So many competing services have the ability to check when someone is free, and you can send them a link. Like say you want to set up a meeting with someone. That is a basic feature of most competitors, but it isn't available. And that seems like something that should be there. I also think that it really needs some improvements to the way that the app is designed. It can be quite hard to actually just create an event. You can use sort of natural language on the Mac, but there's no ability to add with natural language on the iPhone. And if you do create an event with Siri, it doesn't really understand. If you want to move events around with Siri, it doesn't really understand. Now, maybe that will get better with iOS 18.4.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just seems like Calendar is such an important basic app. Over the years, we've talked a lot about Mail needs some improvements, or different things on the Mac need improvements. Notifications need improvements. But I actually think the Calendar app is starting to just feel like it's doing the bare minimum, and it isn't actually offering new features that would provide quality of life enhancements to users.
I feel like if I don't want like the calendar app to be a paid thing, but like stuff with invites, just going back to that, like we're paying for it to use it. You have to be a iCloud, Plus subscriber to use this app. And so, yeah, they're lumping it in with like, well, you're also getting this. It's not like you're paying 1-to-1, but if we're paying for it, maybe that'll make them take it seriously. Although we've seen with Final Cut Pro where we've paid for it, hasn't gotten a ton of updates. Granted, that is a one-time payment, so they're probably a little less eager to spend a lot of time and resources into it. But like, imagine if Apple took a lot of its core important resources and apps and just made it a part of Apple One, so that anyone could subscribe to it, and like gave it out to Android users. Not everything, but like. What did we talk? So the Invites app obviously is one of them. If they created some sort of better Clips version that anyone could use, Apple TV is already out there, right? Is there an Apple TV Android app? Why have I not thought there is?
I believe so.
It's for everything else. Putting Apple Music out there like they already have. So just lumping these all together, messages, dare I say?
I don't know about that one.
I know that's another hot topic.
It's a difficult balance, right? Because I understand if Apple was to put notes and calendar and mail and contacts and photos and all this stuff on Android, why would you buy an iPhone other than just for the camera hardware or the
Sure.
design or the colors. So
You can't do it. I get it.
I just think that some things there is probably a good case for. I think that there's a very good case for FaceTime. I think there is a.
Oh, that was
there
the
is
other one, FaceTime.
I think there is a good case, obviously, for Apple TV and Apple Music because those are already standalone paid services. But I just wonder if something's harmless, like no one's gonna really care if the Invites app. No one's going to think, oh, I will now use an Android device because of the Invites app instead of an iPhone. But it would mean that Android users get more into the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I don't know though, because even then, how many Android users are going to think to download the Invites app? And is it even worth Apple's time to develop it?
That's the thing. So like at the end of the day, that's why I keep saying, why are you even making it then? If you're not going to take it, that's why I'm trying to come up with different ways. Sure, we don't want to throw every app into subscription and allow everyone to use it because you're right. What's the point of using the hardware? Even though I still think you can make some cases for it, but some of these apps, they do require cross-platform because there's more people out there that need it. And if you're not going to take it seriously for your user base, then I don't know. I like to think that if it was something that other people were paying for, they would take it a little bit more seriously. But yeah, FaceTime though would be nice because then you can actually make a legitimate use case for Macs at work. Like there's already a ton of people and companies using it, but like they don't need to download
And I think
Zoom.
FaceTime's really good.
Yeah, but not for work. So
No.
if they can make it better for work,
You should be able to create like different profiles.
yeah.
I think there's a lot that could be done, and they do seem to bring decent updates to FaceTime. It's just it never quite goes far enough that I can say confidently to someone, "Oh yeah, FaceTime me," unless we're just personal friends.
Yeah, right.
I'm never going to say to someone I don't know particularly well, "Let's set up a meeting. I'll FaceTime you."
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
going
I
to use
mean-
some other service, and that just seems
Think
strange.
about how useful that would be, though, if you could. I mean, we very well can. We have to remember that I know you said it, but the create link and sending it out to everybody is technically there. But like, I just don't know how frustrating of an experience that is for other people to the point where they're gonna be like,
But
I don't
they
want to do
also can't
this.
initiate that call.
Right. That's the other thing.
So it's kind of I mean, it's very half-hearted. It clearly is not where it should be. So it's an interesting time for these sort of individual apps because we have got more of them. I mean, we've just mentioned 3 there. Clips makes 4. I wonder if there are others that we're just not thinking about here.
I was trying to go through them. Like, I don't know. I deleted all of them.
I actually think another one that isn't. I mean, it's not quite on the same level, but Apple News was introduced but hasn't really been iterated on.
No, like I want to use that as like instead of an RSS. I'd rather just like make it that. I mean, I know you could do some of the things, but it's still
The
not as good.
notifications don't work very well because apps can only provide like 5 a day, so they can't use very many, and many publishers seem to misuse what they provide those notifications for, so it's actually not a very good experience. Likewise, just reading a chronological feed of news is also not a very good experience.
Did you forget about Freeform? Because I did.
I did forget about Freeform.
Does anybody use that?
I don't know.
Have you ever used it for anything?
I think I've tried to use it to make like flowcharts and stuff, but it's not very good at that task, at least. I think that app actually I can see Apple sticking with because there is, if Apple wants to create collaborative apps for work, it usually is quite good at keeping Pages, Numbers, and Keynote up to date, and this is basically one of those apps. But
What in the world is this? What's
don't know.
Apple Partner Media Review? This has to be like an internal tool. Why is it like
Probably.
something that I can download? Apple Partner Media Review provides studios and encoding houses the ability to review video content before it goes live in the Apple TV app. That's cool. It's definitely incredibly niche and for just production houses that are making Apple TV Plus content to be able to look at it. But why is that available to me right now? I don't know. But Apple Business Essentials. Do you ever use any of these? Apple Configurator? What would that be for?
I mean, these are utilities that are for
Yeah.
businesses or developers.
Yeah.
But there are just many that are even native apps like News, and that's ultimately a paid service, just have not really seemed very interested in iterating. Some things like Pages and Numbers are really good and really quite polished.
Yeah. Pretty much good, alternatives to Microsoft Word. And I agree with you on the news thing. That app is
Passwords
it's got,
was actually a pretty
good
good
app.
introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good app. I don't know, man. I think we'll leave it up to everybody else. Man, I forgot again to tell everybody they need to ask us questions. I was going to end the episode, and they gotta. I'll add something at the beginning before we start, just on my own, just because we need to get questions in. We've only got a couple more weeks. Also, real quick, are you watching Severance live, or are you waiting for it to finish?
What I'm going to do, so I fly to the US this week,
Okay.
and I am going to download every episode that's broadcast so far. I will
only
watch
been
those
3.
on the flight out, and then on the flight back, I will watch everything else. That's my plan.
All right, good. So then maybe in another episode or two, we can do a little Severance talk.
Spoilers, though, for people that haven't seen it.
Well, I'll make sure to scream spoiler alert, just turn it off, and then come back after you've seen it. We should start doing that. On the off chance that there's a show that we're watching at the same time, we should have a little bit of discussion about it. It's related. It's Apple.
I guess.
You should listen to the Severance podcast, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's very good. And they do give some insight a little bit on what it's like to work with Apple for some of these shows. So, I think that's interesting for those of you who haven't listened to it. I like Ben Stiller. I like Adam Scott. They're the ones who do it. But all right, questions, ask us for the Q&A episode. Anything you want, could be about absolutely anything. The more crazy you go, the more or the less likely we probably won't answer it. So, keep it reasonable. But otherwise, we'll catch everybody in the next episode.